Check. Oops, sorry. Testing. 1, 2.
Test, 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 test. This is not too close. But probably similar to what I would normally be doing in my mumbleless way.
That even smaller, right? Oh yeah, that's. Yeah. You know. The only time I'll have that option is speaking. Yeah.
one from the table up front.
I have an extra,
She's got an extra here, Jolene.
but she's on her.
She's on her.
That's dark.
Okay, well, I guess I'll call us to order. This is the October 22nd special meeting of the McKinleyville Community Service District Board of Directors and the McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee. So, we have a roll call?
Yes, I'll do the MMAC first. Maya Conrad. Here. Kevin Dreyer.
Here.
Lisa Dugan. Here. Kevin Jenkins.
Here.
Pat Kaspari.
Present.
Greg Orsini.
Here.
Twyla Sanchez. Here. And Chair Bonnie Oliver.
Here.
MCSD, Director Bender.
Here.
Director Clark Peterson. Director Mayo.
Present.
Director Orsini.
Here.
And President Couch.
Here. Thank you. So, everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, somebody want to make a motion to put the agenda? Second. Thank you.
To approve the agenda. Director Bender.
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson. Director Mayo.
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
President Couch.
Yes. And let's see the crew.
Maya Conrad. Aye. Kevin Dreyer. Just say yes.
Aye.
Lisa Dugan.
Yes.
Kevin Jenkins. Pat Kaspari.
Yes.
Greg Orsini.
Yes.
Twyla Sanchez. Yes. And Chair Bonnie Oliver.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have item B, public comment and written communication. Any person may address the board at this time on any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the McKinleyville Community Service District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for report of action at the subsequent committee or board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Letters should be used for complex issues. Do you get closer? Okay. Go ahead, Dennis.
This is germane to all of us in the community. It's not on the agenda tonight, but it's a big, exciting part of economic development. Tomorrow at the marina, the Harbor District is having a kickoff for an exciting partnership and a lot of money that they're getting to help put together the new development at the Harbor District for infrastructure for the windmill support service, and it's a big deal, and this is going to be a changer in our community. So I just would suggest anybody that is interested to stop down and check that out.
Thank you, Dennis.
It's at the marina. 1 o'clock. Sorry.
Okay.
Sure, I'll jump in now to introduce Jim Beitman, who is our new board member-elect and is here to take notes tonight.
Welcome.
This will be the last time you'll be treated nicely, I'm sure.
I wanted to, with confirmation from Scott Bender, is there a trash bash this weekend? On Saturday at,
Yes, there is. Trash Bash is located at the usual spot near North Coast Awning, 9 o'clock to 10:30. 90 minutes of your time is all we ask, and we can make a huge dent in the mess that's especially accumulated between Murray and Railroad on Central Avenue.
Congratulate you on a momentous occasion tonight, with both of these boards coming together to work for the benefit of our. There we go. 5th District Supervisor Stephen Jones. I just wanted to congratulate you all on this momentous occasion, on coming together as two boards representing the whole community. I think it's a fantastic thing, and I applaud you all for your work and efforts to represent this community. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a record. Do you guys have people in the audience when you have meetings, or?
we sometimes do, yeah. I don't know, is there anyone in the Zoom world tuning in? Yeah, there's some familiar names
Yeah.
there, yeah. We usually have more on Zoom. It's a small crowd in person, but, yeah. You guys are cramping us. Some may still.
Some may show up.
Maybe we can separate the room.
We haven't been controversial enough yet, but.
Well, we still have a meeting.
Yeah.
Got that opportunity. So anyway, now we'll move on to continued new business. And C1 is discussion of differing roles, nature, and structure of the McKinleyville Community Service District, MCSD, and the McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee, MMAC, and we're going to spend 20 minutes, and I'm not sure who's Matt's doing it, or who's.
And then I have a
little
PowerPoint for the MCSD part of that presentation.
Okay, well, I'm not presenting on this. I was going to keep time on this. Bonnie, I
Okay.
think, does have stuff she wanted to present on it.
Okay, well, let's start with Bonnie.
Okay.
Or go with Bonnie.
All right. Yes, thank you. Okay. The first slide has the question, is it MMAC or MCMAC? We get called many things, and usually spoken, it's MCMAC, and written, it's MMAC, but not necessarily. In our official county documents, it's MMAC, but we will answer to MCMAC as well. So that's just, I think the Metro Reunion uses MCMAC. So anyway, next slide, please. Okay, in 2002, the Humboldt County General Plan, the McKinleyville Community Plan, part of it, had the following. Within 1 year of adoption of this plan, and that was in 2002, the Board of Supervisors shall appoint a Municipal Advisory Committee, MAC, for the McKinleyville Community Plan area. Appointed members shall serve at the discretion of the Board of Supervisors as an advisory agency on general community issues. And then I noted that the MCMAC was formed in 2012. Next slide. This is talks about who is serving on the MCMAC, and they were all voting members. One is from the Community Services District Board. One is the MCSD General Manager. 3 are volunteers appointed by the 5th District Supervisor, and 3 are volunteers appointed by the full Board of Supervisors. And the next slide, you see who is who, if you don't know us already. This year's MCSD Board member is Greg Orsini. He's also serving as a secretary. Pat Kaspari is the ongoing MCSD General Manager. The 3 5th District Supervisor appointees are myself, Lisa Dugan, and Twyla Sanchez, and the full Board of Supervisors appointees are Kevin Dreyer, Maya Conrad, and Kevin Jenkins. And Kevin Jenkins is the Vice Chair and the Treasurer this year. We elect new officers every year. In our updated rules, I think we've made a 2-term limit of 4 years each. So, so when some of us are done with our terms, current terms, that'll be it for them. Anyway, next slide, please. Which one?
I must not have been at that meeting, I guess.
It was.
Term limits?
It's in our rules. The term, 2 terms.
A new rule?
Yeah, it was a addendum or a revision to the rules. It wasn't specified originally. No.
Okay. Maybe I missed that vote. I guess.
That could be.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This slide comes from our rules and regulations, and it's the general task of the MCMAC. We're tasked with gathering input from the community and providing advice, on matters which relate to services which are or may be provided to McKinleyville Community Planning Area by the county or other local government agencies. The advice to be provided includes, but is not limited to, advice on matters of public health, safety, welfare, public works, public financing, and proposed annexation that may affect the areas covered by MCMAC. And so just that is why we include, say, community safety updates at all our meetings, if possible. So a second responsibility of the MCMAC is to review, comment, and provide advisory recommendations to the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors on planned zoning amendments and general plan petitions and amendments located within the McKinleyville planning area. The MCMAC is to evaluate the proposed amendments and petitions for conformance with the McKinleyville Community Plan. The MMAC will also discuss and provide input on long-range planning issues. And so an example of this is our work over the past few years on the town center zoning ordinance. So we are not writing the ordinance, we are not going to be the ones voting to adopt it or not, but we are advising the development process, and hopefully we'll advise recommendation to adopt the final product eventually. Yeah. Okay, next slide, please. What the MCMAC cannot do, we can't review, comment, or provide advisory recommendations on subdivisions, conditional use permits, special permits, coastal development, or variance permits or variances unless they are part of a larger project, which also includes a general plan amendment or zone reclassification. So we're not, as a group, tasked to review specific projects. We're more just zoning related and changes to the larger ordinances of county planning. The MCMAC is not a decision-making body, but we can make recommendations on proposed zoning, general plan petitions, and amendments. And the MCMAC does not have authority to make, set, provide, interpretation, or enforce county ordinances, policies, or laws. And I noted that we're appointees and unpaid volunteers. All right, next, please. Pardon? Not yet. And I wanted to make sure everyone knew how to get to our webpage, so I could make this PowerPoint available, but just type in McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee into your search bar, and you'll probably be directed to this webpage. And it includes links to agendas and approved minutes, meeting recordings when they're available, the rules and regulations. So Kevin, you can look at that document and see where we put that new term limit in there. And MCMAC members and biographies is a recent addition, and MCMAC application to serve is on, there's a link, and there's a link to the Town Center Master Plan on that, all on that website. So if you want to know more, that's a good place to start. And yes, Director Mayo.
I apologize, I should know the answer to this. Do we have that link on our MCSD website, the link to them? We should do that. Okay, we should do that. I don't think we need to have everything, but we need to have a link to them.
Yeah, I think MCMAC would welcome that. Yeah. Okay, I think that's my last slide. So now you are all experts on who we are. And go ahead with questions or, yeah.
Yes, there we go. I agree, you know, there's this bit of confusion about the term limits. I'm going to check in with our county council, but I think it's very much like if we remember Governor Jerry Brown. He had served a couple of terms as governor, and term limits came in, I think, in his second term. And so he actually came back and had a third term, but it was really because, in other words, when rules change, you don't go back and take those other terms, only the terms that exist at the time, I believe. And so really everybody could potentially have another term because it just happened. But I'll check in with our county council and get confirmation for the MCMAC on that, because that'd be nice to be clear about that. So just in case there was concern or confusion around that, we'll get that clarified. Yeah, you bet. It does. I mean, the institutional knowledge of people like Kevin and others are just so valuable on the MCMAC, along with the new folks that have joined. But at any rate.
I would,
Okay.
I just found it, and I want to clarify that
Please.
it's not 2 terms, it's 3 terms for a total of 12 years. Sorry.
Great. So
Yeah.
3 terms. And again,
I stand corrected. Yeah.
thank you, Bonnie. And
Yeah.
I will confirm when that, I believe
Yeah.
it's from when it takes effect.
Yeah.
You're ready to leave. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, when you talk to the council, I'm curious, is there, if one term is went after you've been your 12 and off and you want to come back, can you come back? I think that should be an option, but I don't know that we can be too restrictive in our guidelines. So I'd like to see flexibility as well, because as you all know, it's a job that takes some getting up to speed, and then even if somebody does take a break, they still have that institutional knowledge, and sometimes they want to get back in the fray, and we want them back in the fray. So I just would wonder what our flexibility is there. That's all.
Yeah. Actually, right after that sentence about term limits, it says the term shall be staggered such that no more than four voting members' terms expire at the same time. So, yeah.
With vacancies.
Yeah, true. Sure. That was my first ever PowerPoint.
Well,
Thank you. Yeah. I only got in trouble when I went off script. There we go. Yeah.
I have a couple PowerPoints. But the next one actually starts on item C2, but I could do it.
Well, do you want to summarize
So that I was going to kind of,
MCSD's
yes,
role?
I'll do that under C2.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I have a comment on some of the roles of the MMAC. Is one of the biggest projects we've been working on for years is the town center plan and the ordinance for that. And there's been quite a break from that with the loss of John Miller at the planning department and the potential of John Ford moving, and now he's not, but we have definitely lost momentum on the town center project, and I guess we're waiting for, I don't know if it's EIR they have to work on or what's holding up the planning department, but that is has been one of our major roles in the last few years, and that's for the entire town center, especially the property that owned by the Pearsons behind the Safeway. So just in case anybody's not aware, that we've been working on that diligently for 2 or 3 years now. So.
Yeah, Kevin, I think there's still action going on in the background, and the loss of John Miller did slow that process down, but I think, and correct me, Supervisor Madrone, but the county just funded the EIR for that town center. So now I think that's out to bid now. Are we going out to bid? I'm not sure where that's at in that process, but that is kind of the next logical step to see if everything else can be moving forward, from my understanding. Yeah.
Yes, the Board of Supervisors did approve in our budget for this year $200,000 to do the EIR, and they're preparing an RFP to go out and be able to hire the consultants to be able to begin that process. John Ford has also been working to take all the more recent input from the MCMAC to amend the text of the draft ordinance, and that will be coming back sometime in the next month or two before the end of the year. Yes, losing John Miller was a big hit, and it did slow some things down, but there's been some really great discussions going on with the Pearson family that I've been involved in, and we're going to be bringing all that back to the MCMAC in the very near future as well, so that the community can be fully appraised of what's going on with that. But momentum will pick up again real soon, so thanks for the question.
And Kevin, we started the town center process in 2019, so it's actually been 3 to 4 years. In COVID.
Now I think we're really ready to move to C2.
Okay. So McKinneyville Community Services District is a special services district established under the laws of California. The powers that MCSD has adopted are water, wastewater, streetlights, parks and rec. We also have adopted library as well as sheriff, but law enforcement. But for both library and law enforcement, we are working with the county. We provide the facilities for them to provide the service, the library service, as well as a building here for the sheriff's department. So we do spend most of our time making sure you have clean drinking water and you can flush your toilet, and working on mowing the parks and keeping the gophers under control. But we do have several big projects that are going on right now, which is what I was going to kind of focus on. And feel free to interrupt me with any questions while we're going through it, or we can wait till we get to the end and ask questions as well.
I'd be curious how you're trying to keep those gophers in line. It's
Yes,
rampant around here.
yes, the gophers are winning and have been winning. Yeah, we don't use pesticides at all, so it is trapping and various and sundry other means. So I am going to talk about the community forest first. So most people have probably seen this map. It's 553 acres along the eastern edge of McKinleyville. So the light green highlighted area is the proposed community forest. Trust for Public Lands got a grant from the State Natural Resource Agency to purchase those 553 acres from Green Diamond, and then they would deed the land over to McKinleyville Community Services District. We have also gotten a grant already to do a draft framework forest management plan, so we hired BBW to do a framework plan, and the uses identified are public access recreation. I think that'll be the biggest use, and so we are going to use it for hiking trails as well as horse trails, as well as bike trails, etc. We do intend to do timber harvesting on it. The BBW report said that we have a few decades. It does have some good stands of trees in there, but we have a few decades before we can actually do any harvests that'll produce any money. Yes, ma'am.
So what's the composition roughly of redwood to fir, and any idea of growth rate?
There's not a lot of redwood. It is mainly pine up there, and so, what's that? And Doug fir, and there's some scrappy timber. There's a lot of alder up there as well, but and Sitka spruce. But we are going to harvest when we can. It is also the headwaters of Wittowhite Creek and Mill Creek too, so water and resource conservation is going to be a heavily emphasized use of that area. We are continuing to work with Green Diamond on it. They have completed the assessment of it. Actual cost or the assessed value came in under the grant. So Green Diamond is trying to make a decision on whether they want to grant another 30 or 40 acres or just take less money and still just stick with the 553 acres. So that's one of the big decisions they're trying to work out. One of the other main decisions that we're trying to have finalized before we take over the land is access points. And I think most of you know that we have gone out and done public meetings on access points. There's the 2 access points off Murray Road that are a given, and actually the one at the top of Murray Road there is the one we're really going to focus on when we do get grants to develop that area. But we are focusing in on First Road and East Cochrane, and we're talking to Green Diamond about easements across their land. The red shaded land there is all stuff that Green Diamond is going to hold on to. So we will have to get access across their land to reach the community forest. So we do want to have those easements in place before we actually acquire the land. So that's kind of the other big hold up now, if you will, or the negotiating point that we're working on. I keep saying, ever since we started this project, that, you know, hopefully by this time next year, we'll actually own the land, but I still think that's true.
Patrick, is there any rationale why there's those 3 chunks of land that they held on to, the buffer and the buffer 33 acres and the community? It just seems a little odd that we would then have to ask for easement across that. Is this something we can be asking?
I can conjecture, but Kevin, you want to conjecture?
Well, when Green Diamond first made their presentation to the MMAC, and it was for residential housing.
Yeah, those are definitely the areas right on the edge of the existing development boundary, so the ones that could be easily developed. And I suspect that is why they're holding on to them.
Well, they have the most merchant.
We have asked Green Diamond for both, access at both. They have not granted access at both yet. So we're just still waiting and negotiating with them. So we have not made a priority. We're saying both of them are high priority as far as we're concerned.
I would definitely lobby that both access points would be high priority because they're servicing different communities, with neighborhoods rather.
Yeah, and that is our thought too, is that the central one on First, it's that whole community in the central part of McKinleyville that can access there, including you, Twilight. And then East Cochrane too, the whole southern part. And if you wanted to take a hike from Murray all the way down, you have nowhere to come out unless you have access at East Cochrane. Right. Right.
But as part of the community force committee, I think we're all unanimous on that we want to all
It definitely makes sense. I also have a question, but because, yeah, Murray Road is already going to have 80 new homes at least coming in, and that's going to be that much more traffic there. And then as well as, but the Murray Road access point is already fairly popular. And I have a question about the recreational use. Yeah. Has there been any planning as far as like where trails would be, if they're multi-use or separated by horse or bike or hike? And has there been any discussion about possible motorized off-road vehicle use on specific days or times of the month, or in the not rainy season or anything? Has anybody ever brought that up?
Yes, and we've been discussing it. So we've been pushing off really making any decisions until we actually own the land. But one of the first things we are going to do is have to take that framework of forest management plan and turn it into a true forest management plan. So in order to do that, we are going to have to go out to the community and make all those decisions on, are we going to allow motorized? Are we going to allow camping up there at all for, Boy Scouts or other groups that sign up for it? How are we going to pay for access to the trails? Are we going to have people pay into that, or is that just all going to be free? There's all sorts of questions that we need to answer, and the motorized motorcycles and stuff has definitely come up, and we'll have to make a decision on that.
One of the part of the funding, the way that this was funded, the entity that's funding this is not very supportive of that type of activity. That being said, that's just a point. And yes, I have been in discussions quite a bit with groups that would like to do something. Not sure. It's part of what we've got to develop in our management. This is a long process. And, I tell everybody that asks me about this is to be active participants when the planning process begins.
Yeah, no, the land is free, sorry, Maya. Land is free, but we are getting no other money to operate or develop anything up there. So we are going to be really chasing grants, and it is going to be kind of, what grants do we get to build what?
I don't know if you've researched any other models, but earlier this year I was on East Bay Mud lands, and they have a pretty neat system where I think I paid $10 for an annual permit. So it's very affordable for most anybody, and then they have a day use pass. And I think they're more concerned about registering and keeping track of users, and you have to sign in every time you park at one of their facilities. But they're generating a nominal amount of income, but also then tracking users and user movement. So I thought that was an interesting model that you might want to look into.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. So the next is our BMX park. This is a layout that MDG has developed. So this is the park that is going in on the corner of School and Washington. Again, this is all totally grant funded. The district went out for RFP and selected a landscape engineer to design it, MDG out of Reading. This is what they came back as their first kind of cut at the park. What they are doing currently is developing a schedule and developing a master plan for the park. We're gonna come up with a draft master plan and bring that back out to the community and ask about various and sundry things about, you know, what type of playground equipment do you want? What type of surfaces do you want? What do you think about this parking lot layout, et cetera? So we're thinking that that master plan is probably gonna come out early 2023. Once we get that kind of nailed down, then they're gonna move into final design plans and specs. And we'll take some of those, like to our Parks and Rec committee, we'll take those final designs to them for them to review. And we think we are gonna start construction probably in 2024 on this, maybe the end of 2023. But then should be done by the end of 2024. And it is gonna be pretty cool. The big central feature, of course, is the BMX track, but it'll have 2 pickleball courts and a basketball court and a playground area, et cetera.
And a public bathroom.
Yes, and a public bathroom.
Remind me, how much acreage is there for?
Oh, shoot. Good question.
3.5 acres.
Okay.
Shy of 3.5? Thank you.
Leslie is on Zoom, but I don't know if she's a panelist or not. But. Are you gonna?
Can we,
Hello, can you hear me?
yes. Go ahead.
It's, am I answering the question of how many acres?
We suspect about 3.1, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, 3 acres.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Leslie, that I've forgotten about this or the community forest?
Well, the community, I heard the comments about the off-road vehicles, and I do believe the grant stipulates no off-road, off-highway vehicle use.
Correct.
So as we move through the process, that might be a sticking point, but I could be wrong. Otherwise, no, you're doing great, Pat.
So Leslie, I know you said you couldn't hear some of the other stuff we said, and I want to really thank you for what we assigned to you, so thanks.
Thanks, Dennis.
Pat will tell you tomorrow.
No, he'll tell me next week because I'm actually on vacation right now.
That's how good of a staff we have.
Good, we can assign that other thing to you.
I had a comment on that before we go on. If you're not familiar with the history of this parcel, like back when Norm Chopet was our general manager, this came us as surplus land from the school district. And so we had an opportunity, we tried to like get the whole parcel, and you know, that deal didn't work out. So we ended up buying the south part of the parcel. With the earthquake fault through it, so it was cheap because it's not supposed to be built on, although there's houses on the earthquake fault. But anyway, that's how we came to acquire the piece of property that we have.
Yeah, now with the new legislation that just passed for surplus governments and surplus lands, we probably wouldn't even have been able to buy it. It probably would have had to have been used for low-income housing or something like that.
Okay, moving on. So moving out of parks into infrastructure. And one of the big infrastructure projects we have going on now is a 4.5 million gallon water storage tank. And I don't know if people are going to be able to see my cursor on Zoom, but The water line from Hubble Bay Municipal Water District kind of crosses, it does cross the Mad River, kind of at the lower right corner of this, runs up to North Bank Road, runs up North Bank Road to our North Bank or Ramey Pump Station at the corner of North Bank and Azalea. And that water line crosses the Mad River Fault, is located underneath the Mad River. And if there is a, big earthquake or a flood, it's in jeopardy of getting damaged. Currently, our existing storage tanks have about 2.5 days of water storage for the community. The addition of this 4.5 million gallon tank will give us 5 to 7 days of storage, so a lot more time to deal with the loss of connection. The district has been great about looking to the future, and so when Caltrans was upgrading the Highway 101 bridge for seismic, at the time, the district put in a pipe under the bridge that went to nowhere. But subsequent to that, we got a grant to connect that to MCSD's system on the north side of the river and the city of Arcata's system on the south side of the river. So we can feed water both ways. We can feed water to Arcata, Arcata can feed water to us. So that is a partial solution if we lose that pipe under the river, but it really is a small pipe and it would take a lot, and we need this additional storage to be able to have enough pump during the night, get enough storage to be able to feed Arcata if they lose their service, or vice versa. Arcata pumps during the night and feeds us during the day. This is a grant-funded project. You can see right in the center of this is our existing Cochrane tank. So there's a 1 and a 1.5 million gallon tank up off, this is Cochrane, Azalea, Hewitt. So the new tank is gonna go right in there. And that's a layout of where the new tank is gonna go. One of the issues we heard from the neighbors while we were doing this is, hey, is that gonna impact my view? So we did a view shed analysis, and it really doesn't. So this is a view from Cochrane looking up at the tank, and you really can't even see the tank from down there. And if we put some trees in front of it, you can even see it even less. And same with up on Hewitt, looking down, you can barely see the top, and then we'll shade it from trees. So it really won't be impacting the view shed at all. Again, this is a $8 million grant. We have a $3 million match. We're chasing some additional grant monies to try to shave off that $3 million as well. We are currently in design on this. We're at 90% on the design. We want to go out to bid early 2023 and start construction of this in the summer of 2023. So this is going to be a huge key component for providing water to the district if in the event of a big earthquake, et cetera.
Just in case you want to know how long the project like this took, he's been working on this since 2006.
Wow.
Isn't there also another 1 million gallon tank going up on Murray for the subdivision up there? Or is
No,
that private? That's not all private?
Yeah, there was discussions of that, but that never did go through. So no, so unless they are putting in a different tank, which I don't know about, yeah. They're gonna connect to our water, but they're not gonna have.
So you're gonna pressure all the way up the hill?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's pretty much the same one. You negotiated with them putting booster pump stations off our Norton tanks. Thanks, James.
Oh, Norton.
When I left, there was, we were still in the negotiation whether it was going to be a hydrodynamic or whether they were going to be gravity.
Yeah, no, I haven't had discussions with them lately.
Thanks. Somehow I'd heard they were putting in a 1 million gallon tank, but they, oh.
Yep.
It was going to be
Moving on to the Mad River Estuary Off-Channel Habitat Restoration and Public Access Project. So this is the project at the corner, well, at the end of School Road, near School and Fisher. The district owns all of the land down there. We use our reclaimed wastewater to irrigate the ag land and grow fodder crops off it that gets harvested and used for feed. The district used to during the, and then so in the wet weather season when the Mad River's up and it's raining, we don't need irrigation water, we can discharge to the Mad River. We used to also discharge to a percolation pond, which you can kind of see the outline of there. Since we got all the additional ag land down there, we don't use that percolation pond at all. And the State Water Resources Control Board was saying, well, you're gonna have to abandon that. So rather than going in and just pushing in the dikes and filling it in, the district worked with CalTrout to come up with grant funding to put in off-channel habitat. So the perk pond is gonna basically, the perk pond will be turned into ponds with a channel that then connects to the Mad River. And it'll be good rearing habitat for small fish and fry, et cetera, that are coming up the river. And when the river is running high, they can go hide up that channel. We're also putting in, we own the area right at the end of School Road. There's a bluff there. I keep losing my cursor. But basically at the end of School Road, we own that bluff up there. And we're gonna put in ADA access, put in trails that, this is kind of a layout of where the trails are. So it'll come off the end of the Hammond Trail, which runs along School, or a spur of the Hammond Trail, which runs along School there, and continue in out to the bluff with benches and tables, and around in another viewpoint with benches. And this will all be paved here. The district also got a grant to work on a gravel trail that goes down to, and we put in some rustic steps down, so another access to the Mad River down there for fishing, or if you got a plastic kayak, you can put in there. So this is all grant funded. CalTrout did a great job swirling together a whole bunch of different granting agencies, the Coastal Conservancy, National Marine Fisheries, State Department of Fish and Wildlife. So this is entirely grant funded. And this is some cross sections of, that's the old perk pond that is then going to be turned into a pond, and the connection to the Mad River. The goal, I think, or the vision of the district is to put in trails all along this area. So this is the start of a trail. It'd be nice to have a trail that wraps all the way around the Mad River and connects to the Hammond Trail and even goes past the Hammond Trail. We don't have any money to do that, but we are definitely chasing grants to try to fund that. Moving on, unless somebody has questions. Yeah, it could. You know, we own the land all the way out to Mill Creek, basically. So if, you know, the other landowner on the other side of Mill Creek was amenable to running one all the way out, yeah, it could be another intermodal connection. Yeah.
I wanted to say too, when Pat said CalTrout, he kind of means Mary Burke, who works for CalTrout and used to be a board member here and has kind of been the spearhead on this.
Yeah. Yep, she was key. Next one, our wastewater management facility microgrid. This is a 0.5 megawatt solar array consisting of 1,458 solar modules, as well as a 712 kilowatt battery storage system at our wastewater treatment plant. We have, this again was $2.5 million grant funded and a $2.5 million loan from the State Water Resource Control Board. A very low interest loan before interest rates started taking off. And the solar array is up and running and has been signed off by PG&E. And so we've been spinning the meter, PG&E meter backwards for the last couple months. So this is a direct cost savings to the district and our ratepayers on a daily basis, every day the sun shines. We're still waiting for PG&E approval on the battery storage part. So right now, when the sun's shining, we're powering our entire wastewater facility. But when the sun goes down, we have nowhere to put that energy. But when we get the batteries approved, we can charge the batteries during the day as well, and then run off the batteries at night. So this is going to be a direct cost savings on a daily basis to the district. But it also is going to help me sleep much better at night. Basically, if there's power outage from a big storm or PSPS's power safety shutdowns, et cetera, we will be able to run the wastewater treatment plant.
Pat, what does it entail to get PG&E permission, and why do they need permission for you to?
Well, we connect into the grid too, so we're when the meter is spinning backward, we're putting power to PG&E, which is going out to run the grid. So they need to sign off on anything like that. The way this was set up is we did the application for the solar array and got that approved, so we could put that online, and then submitted the battery array. We had to do it like that. And they had told us that, oh yeah, we'll have this approved by the end of September. Here we are at the end of October, and they won't return our phone calls.
I can kind of touch base on that too, because we put the solar on ACE. And unfortunately, PG&E's infrastructure was never designed to handle multiple power supplies, creating power. So they have issues with how the system is wired, James Creek substation, et cetera, and being able to make sure things are safe. And worst case scenario, sometimes if things happen, catastrophe happens, basically. So, I mean, they're going to engineer from a worst case scenario situation. But that is one of the things where people putting a few solar panels on your individual homes, not a big deal. Big systems like this, where there is an issue, then it can impact the entire grid. So yeah, PG&E has a lot of work to do throughout Humboldt County on the infrastructure, and we're talking millions of dollars going in there because nobody foresaw solar power to the extent that we have it now when a lot of infrastructure was created and installed.
I guess the analogy would be the well I used to have on my property that MCSD told me I needed to cap or pay. So maybe
Good
that's
analogy.
a little similar. Yeah. But I get it, like you don't want backflow into your system.
Are you going to study at all whether what you make by selling power back to PG&E is worth it to be grid tied? Could you consider just being independent?
We definitely want to be tied to the grid, because if anything goes down here, this is also tied into our emergency generator. We are looking at the total cost savings, and I'm pulling together those monetary amounts to report back to the board and to the public. But we definitely do want to be tied to the grid, so we have that other source of power.
One of the things that is important to everybody know is that MCSD made our decisions on this when the contractual obligations were at optimum for us and PG&E. We didn't wait. Had we waited, we wouldn't be so they're obligated to us for a better deal. Don't ever forget any of us in 10 years or whatever the time frame. PG&E wants the hell out of this market. So, but as of now, we're protected well in our whole part of that. We don't know how much it's going to actually pay off, but we're in the sweet spot. Let's put it that way. Just correct me if I'm incorrect on that.
You are absolutely correct. So moving on, to the project that everyone's gonna hate me about. The district, like I've mentioned a number of times, they have been looking at the long term for this district since it's been established. One of the things we've been looking at is the original water and sewer pipes were installed in the 1970s. They were constructed out of asbestos cement pipe, which has a typical lifespan of 50 years, so all the pipe is 50 years old. This is a cross-section of one of the pipes that we took out of the system. We did a bunch of testing, and so all the nice purple, pink stuff, that's good, decent pipe. The brown stuff is not good pipe, so you can. Yeah. Yeah, yes, good point, thanks, Greg. But it, yes. But it does show that, you know, basically half of the cross-section of the pipe is degraded. And so we've been going through and testing the pipe and figuring out the priorities of what pipe is in the worst condition, where do we want to replace pipe first, and coming up with rates that you guys are paying that we're squirreling away to eventually be able to replace all of this pipe. The first one that we've identified for replacement is the sewer line down Central Avenue between Sutter and Hiller is in really bad shape. You know, a lot of the joints are coming apart, and it's reaching to the point where it could collapse. So that's the first one we've identified for replacement.
So Patrick, we really would have hated you if you decided to do it this past couple of months, and you had two other concerns.
Yes. Yes, so.
You're doing good.
I think you still will hate me, but anyway, so we are gonna replace the sewer line between Sutter and Hiller. The sewer line kind of runs northbound lane right along the edge. We figured while we're doing that, we're gonna replace the water line too. That runs in the second, mainly in the second northbound lane. The sewer line, we've decided that we're.
Hold on. We're supposed to wait until the county paves the road and then come back in and cut it up. Now, you've got to know how this stuff works.
There's protocol. Come on. Then we're gonna get a good dry run for road diet.
I know.
So for the sewer line, we are gonna line that pipe. So the photo on the left is a CIPP lining. It's basically like a fiberglass reinforced sock that you expand into the sewer, and then it cures and basically creates another pipe inside the pipe. So that really will reduce the amount of excavation we have to do on the sewer line. We're still gonna have to pothole certain points where the pipe is in such bad shape that we need to repair the pipe before we can do the CIPP lining, as well as some of the connection points, et cetera. But that'll really reduce how much we have to dig up Central Avenue. However, for the water pipe, it not only provides service to the folks along Central Avenue there, but it provides water. It's one of our main water mains that provides water to the whole northern part of McKinleyville. So instead of working on the existing pipe, we're gonna leave the existing pipe in place and put in a whole new pipe down the center turn lane of Central Avenue. So we'll go in and dig that up, put a whole new PVC pipe in, and then come back and take the connections off the old pipe and put them on the new pipe. So the turn lane down Central between Sutter and Hiller is gonna be torn up next year.
Nobody knows what the center turn lane is.
Okay.
Predict the impact is minimal.
And we are gonna try to do a bunch of this work at night, et cetera, and make the impact as minimal as possible, but I know I'm gonna get all sorts of calls.
My understanding on the CIPP lining is that, well, it does reduce the, obviously, putting it inside the existing pipe, space is smaller. It has enough low friction.
Right.
Coefficient for actually your delivery to be complete.
Right, exactly, yep. Good job, Kevin, thanks. We don't really think we need to. Now we'll have 2 water lines, so we basically will be doubling the capacity in the short term. We're gonna use that other existing line until it fails. So we will be doubling capacity, but we really don't think we need to upsize. It is, thanks, Greg.
It's a really big night.
James has a 16.
Well,
Okay, we'll let them argue that out.
I know I've already heard grumblings from people about the rates going up, but I feel gratitude to live in McKinleyville and know that we have a really quality I can't think of it, community, CSD, thank you. And I am really glad that you are being as proactive as you are. So thank you for all of your efforts to plan for the future.
Yep.
And we are?
Yeah. And you do pay much less than Eureka and Arcata, et cetera. And yeah, I know people are gonna be pissed off at me, but you'd be really pissed off if we were every other week having to dig up the sewer line or the water line on Central to repair a break, rather than going in there in one fell swoop and repairing it.
Or if people are getting sick.
Right.
So do you know exactly how much you're asking the rate to go up?
There is a rate study that is out on the street right now. Next month at our board meeting, we are adopting the new rates. It is roughly for a typical family, it's gonna go up by, I wanna say $6, 6, 7? Yeah, a month. Yeah, right. Yeah. And it is on our website too, Twyla.
And aren't we already, we have money that we collect for this already, I think?
Well, for the Central Avenue stuff, yes, we are, in our last rate study, we started to set aside money for replacing all the water sewer pipes. So, yeah, that hasn't impacted this increase on this rate study. $1 million each, yeah, so $2 million a year.
Pat, would you kind of explain a little bit, some folks may not know, but we have a 100-year plan for our maintenance upkeep at the district. Could you give just a brief explanation of that?
Sure, I don't know if it goes out to 100 years yet, but
Well, I thought that was what we had looked at.
we do have a rolling CIP that looks out 20 years. So every year we're looking out at least 20 years and identifying. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
100 years.
Yes, you are right. Sorry, Dennis. We are by the time. Right. So we are starting to replace pipe now, and Dennis is right. And, come 100 years, you're going to have all new pipes.
What was that?
Dennis is always right. Joey?
Yeah. It's so rare, guys, I kind of grab it when I can. Who has the question?
What was the question?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great, thank you. This is Colin Fisk with CRTP, the Coalition for Responsible Transportation Priorities. I just wanted to make sure that if and when during the construction process the bike lane is blocked, that there's a plan for providing alternate safe access for bicycles along the route. That's it. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Colin. A good reminder, and we absolutely will. And especially the sewer pipe runs right along the northbound bike lane, so we will have to accommodate bike traffic and pedestrian traffic through there. And Leslie wanted me to tell you all that they've killed 225 gophers this year. So.
Wow.
We should have had a barbecue.
How long does the sewer lining last?
It should last 50 years, same as regular PVC pipe.
Thank you.
I think I'm done.
I have kind of a oddball question. That building, I think it is a home. It used to be a store years ago on Washington and School. Does that remain there, or is that part of, that remains?
That's private property.
Okay, thanks.
Unless you want to buy it and donate it to the district. Yeah.
Wow. When I was a kid, that was a grocery store, and there was a bear chain there, and $10 if you could wrestle the bear.
How many times did you do it?
I was a kid. But it was interesting. It was interesting.
We still have bears.
Okay, well, let's see.
I have a question. You folks are chasing so many grants right now. Do you have a dedicated grant writer, or I just see you have so many projects in the works. It seems like, you know, as your projects start leveling off, or you're doing a lot of work right now. A lot of work right now.
Yep.
How do you do it all?
I make James do most of it. But yeah, no, we're very busy. We do team up like President Couch mentioned. Cal Trout and Mary Burke were instrumental in getting the grants for the restoration project. We do team up with GHD and other engineering firms to, you know, when they see grants that they can chase on our behalf, we're more than happy to let them do that. And I'm writing 2 grants right now. Leslie wrote all the grants for all the BMX stuff as well. So yes, we are busy.
Wow, so collaborative efforts, and you're also good at writing grants, multiple of you.
Yep.
Nice.
One more comment.
Sorry.
Thank you. You know, it really helps if you remember there are people on Zoom, and it's really true what was said here, that if you're not speaking directly into the mic, it's really hard for the Zoom people to follow the meeting, so I really appreciate it. Dennis has been doing a great job over there and others, so follow him. He's really grabbing that mic and speaking right into it, because it's not just us talking to each other here in the room. There are other people, and if we remember that and grab the mic, take that second to do that, it really helps with that hybrid participation. I also wanted to say an apology on the part of the county for our failure to really communicate well when we were doing the Bartow or the South Central widening for safety, right? But we did not do a very good job in terms of the detour work or even notifying the district that we were doing this work. So thanks to the MMAC, they have asked me, and I have requested, that our planning and building department keep the MMAC informed, because this is in our rules, the MMAC rules, that we keep the MMAC informed of when there are planning and building projects happening in McKinleyville, that the MMAC has some feedback based on those rules. But in addition, that Public Works notifies the CSD, in particular Pat, when we've got projects happening in McKinleyville that, you know, we need to let you all know. So we've recently gotten feedback from Tom Mattson, Public Works Director, and John Ford, the Planning Director, that they will be doing that monthly now. So hopefully that will improve that, and I apologize for the failure of that. It was a huge impact on the Bartow and Bella Vista community when people were detouring up into there. It was not okay. We had contractor didn't have good signage up. It took us quite a while to get that into shape, but we should have been giving you notice. So again, my apologies for that. We will do better. So thank you.
It caused that when that we had that same issue at when they did School Road, and it caused that project to be delayed for 2 years because they actually took away so much grade. The water main, we had to lower the water main. So yeah. And you know, and we used to get that Excel spreadsheet that had the projects on it at one point in time for the MMAC and also at MCSD, and they just, I think during COVID, they stopped.
Yeah, a lot of things happen, but we can do better, and I think that's one of the beauties of having this joint meeting like this. Perhaps it's annual or whatever you all decide, but we want to be a good partner with you all, and we need to do better, and I will keep my eye on those things, so thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. It's been an ongoing issue for, the 16 years that I've been here, and yet it's a two-sided coin as well. It's up to us to also keep track of stuff and keep asking. And we had 2x2s that we used to do with department heads on a regular basis. We kind of still do that in a varied theme now, but we've all got to keep an eye on it. And I point to the county a lot of times and go, grr, but it's also like anything we do in our daily lives and our work lives and family lives. We have to keep an eye on it as well. So, and we will.
I think we should just blame COVID, because when Pat and I were transitioning from me being GM to him being GM, I think that's about when we stopped getting them during COVID, and Pat would have not had any basis in knowing that those things should have been coming to the queue that, hey, where are these at? So.
And through the chair, I thought it might be a great opportunity to also point out that, it took the county 10 years to get the MMAC form from when it was identified in the community plan. And really, it's Supervisor Ryan Sundberg that deserves the credit for having fought for that and finally got that done. So I just wanted to honor him for that service that he put forward. There you go.
It was longer than 10 years, let me tell you. We've been working on it for a long time. The community, sometimes there's some daggers that get pointed back and forth at different things and groups, et cetera. But MCSD has heard this community loud and clear from the beginning. And MCSD, since I've been here for sure, and probably before that, have been working to try to get a MMAC type situation set up. So we've been working on it a long time. And I'm real happy to see it's coming to fruition. Changing all the time, everything changes, and it's going to get better and better. And that depends on the participation, and this is a great group, so.
I have a question. When you guys are working on some of these big projects, how much is the county involved with that, like BMX and digging up Central and all of that? I imagine it's got to go both ways, right, where you're informing the county of
Yeah,
things you're
and,
doing.
especially for access, so I've been talking to Public Works about, that parking lot for BMX and getting out onto Washington School, et cetera. We'll have to do an encroachment permit, but we've been having conversations with them already. So we try to let them know. We have to let them know about some things.
I don't know if you guys are all familiar, but what Greg was alluding to with a lawsuit was we did have a lawsuit with the county where MCSD sued the county over, it was general plan update where they were gonna put in any big parcel was gonna get rezoned for multiple small units, and it didn't fit into our plan, because we have our pipes and everything sized for the general plan, and if you make a drastic change and increase density, then we have to put in bigger pipes, so we didn't want to see that happen. So part of the settlement of that was creation of the MMAC. So
Is that a segue into the next?
Yeah, I think we're ready for C3. We're,
Yeah, so we're now way behind time.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And that is a very good segue into, so no, I'm supposed to have Joey, I'm not able to advance slide. You know why? Yeah. Yep, there it is. Okay. So that is a very good segue. So water really is not the issue as far as capacity goes. You know, we talked about that 4.5 million gallon tank. We talked about the water line under the Mad River being vulnerable. We actually have been told that we are going to get a grant for putting in a redundant water line under the Mad River as well. We've been told, but we haven't seen the grant agreement. So, but hopefully we will be able to put in another redundant water line, and that'll really solve the problem. North Bank, our main water pump station, has capacity out to probably 2035 or so. And we've also designed it when it was upgraded here, a few years back, 2017, James is mouthing to me, to be able to put in another pump. So our main pump station is going to serve us well into the future. And like we also talked about, we are currently in the middle, we have a 100-year plan to replace all of our water lines as well. So we're working on that. So water really isn't the capacity issue, it's sewer. And we're working on that. So when the district upgraded the wastewater treatment plant, there was a major upgrade in 2018, 2019. These are the slides actually from the presentations of prior to the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Right. So these numbers on here are from about 2018. So they say the existing average dry weather flow is about 0.9 million gallons per day. Average wet weather flow is about 1.1 million gallons per day. Peak peak day flow is about 2 million gallons per day. Well, we're still at those numbers. So, 5 years down the road, we're really still basically at those numbers. The wastewater treatment plant was designed for the numbers shown for year 2030, or 1.4 million gallons per day average dry, 1.7 average wet, and 3.1 million gallons per day. So the treatment plant was designed to go out to 2030, but I think it's going to take us well past that. I, of course, don't know what's going to happen in the next 8 years as far as growth here goes, but I bet we're looking at really more like 2035 before we have to do the next upgrade for the wastewater treatment plant. But President Couch mentioned the general plan update too, and these are the numbers that the county was throwing out for the general plan update. So that B-max multifamily, that was the maximum density that the general plan update in 2011 had. So they were gonna put in a total number of dwelling units of 7,222, and they were gonna shove 6,898 in McKinleyville. And that's where people's hackles got up. But also with the new Senate Bill 9 and the new regulations that the state is pushing down on the county, whether the county has no basic input on it, they can put multifamily units on single-family dwellings lots. So that really is going to potentially push growth all through McKinleyville and the county, frankly, and all over the state. So these numbers are really high, but potentially maybe true. But if you look at, so this was the mid-development. I'm actually going to go to the next one. This is, so like the red highlighted parcels Those were the projections of where the growth was going to occur. And the red ones are, you know, they're going to add 100 to 500 dwelling units. And the orange ones were 26 to 100 dwelling units. And if we zoom in on, this is the town center. So they had projected, you know, north of Hiller, between Hiller and Railroad, that's about 600 dwelling units that they were going to jam into that area. And south of it, you know, there's about another 600 right off Hiller. That 257, that is, a big portion of that has already been occupied by the Sagewood development. Yeah, and so they had projected 257 dwelling units in there. I think there was like 40 some lots that were actually built in that parcel right there. So they really over projected. Well, so that's.
Hey, Greg.
It's
Mike.
Right, were you talking about the one, 257 there?
Yeah.
That's Central Estates?
Is that all Central Estates? I think.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know actually how many all got built into Central Estates, but it's well under 257 dwelling units. I don't think that's all Central Estates.
No.
Right. And that, so it was, I think it's the Sagewood development that went in, and that north section there.
Oh, okay.
But like that 165 units, that's the Washington subdivision that's being developed right now. And he's got like 40 lots that he's planning on putting in there. So these numbers are really, really conservative. However, these are the numbers that SHN was actually working on this model, and this is what they plugged into our sewer model and modeled how that would impact our sewer system. So all the lines on here are existing sewer lines. And the red ones are, when you add all those flows in, where we get surcharged flow. So all two of them, Highway 101 cuts through, let me see if we have cuts through here and here, up here. So these are where the sewer system crosses under Highway 101 in 3 locations. The southern one is off, this is Mill Creek, and this cuts across our land, and this is the end of Fisher here. The central one, this is Thiel, and then it crosses under the highway there and goes over basically right to Hiller, our wastewater treatment plant. And the northern one is up by our Let's pump station. And it's just south of the airport.
In
Right.
between Murray and, or just past Murray.
Right.
A little bit. Yes.
So the reasons why all of these are red is where the sewer is really flat while it's going under Highway 101. And we have also gotten a grant, and we have gotten this grant, and we've started on it to replace all of those crossings with additional crossings. So we're going to put in parallel crossings at all 3 of those locations. We got the first part of the grant and did all the environmental studies and fed all that data to FEMA, and we've been sitting for 2 years waiting for them to finish up NEPA, their environmental studies. We have been having some recent back and forth. I think they're getting close to finishing up NEPA, so they'll release the second part of the grant, and we can actually finish this design and go to construction. I'm hoping we can have these constructed here in the next 3-4 years. I think well before we have the town center master plan developed. I'm sorry, that's not a funny joke. But I think really before we see a lot of the growth. Yeah, so those are the pinch points for our sewer system, and I think we're solving that. So I don't know that infrastructure is a huge issue.
And then, Pat, do you want to kind of cover a little bit that while we're replacing the main lines, upgrading the main lines, some of them are, or while we're replacing the main lines, some of them are going to be upgraded?
Right, yeah, and that's a very good point. So, you know, we know areas too, like around Thiel, that when we are replacing the lines in there, we absolutely, kind of going back to Kevin Dreyer's comments, we're gonna upsize those lines so they can handle the additional flows.
Did you have a comment, ma'am, that you wanted to make? Oh, okay, yes.
So,
Yeah.
so Pat, were some of the numbers from the SHN study, are those being pulled from some of the RENA? You know, the county has commitments to affordable housing, which I know always seems to end up being proposed here because the district is only.
So those were
makes it
for,
actually affordable.
those were the numbers from the 2011 update where they had to feed in all those numbers and they ended up in McKinleyville. We also, before John Miller left, he also took an analysis of, based on the new state laws of where they can put in multifamily housing. He analyzed McKinleyville and looked at what parcels likely we could have multifamily housing on. And he fed us all that data, and we're slowly working our way through it to update this model. But I bet it's gonna look very similar. Because those numbers out of the 2011 general plan update were so high that I bet they're gonna be very similar to what could potentially come out of what the state is requiring now.
I cringe to even bring it up, but sewer laterals, you know, it's a big topic of conversation for the city of Eureka right now, and I guess it would be good to be forewarned what might be coming down the pike, because my understanding was that all of California municipalities were looking at dealing with their sewer lateral situations, and it's a huge burden to homeowners to suddenly have to consider having their sewer laterals inspected, and then a lot, as realtors, Kevin Dreyer and I see a lot of expensive replacements that the cost is borne on the homeowner. And when you're talking about anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 that they had no idea was coming, it's a scary proposition. So I would like to hear more about what MCSD is thinking about that and how we can plan for that.
Very good question, yeah, and it is an issue. So the district owns the sewer lateral up to the edge of the right-of-way. So, you know, as you get to the edge of the road, we own that out to the central, sorry, Greg.
Sorry, Pat. After the sewer is conveyed and you pay for your sewer connection, you own from all the way to the main.
Okay.
Yeah, you own, so you're basically the homeowner's responsible from the house all the way to the main. One of the good things about McKinleyville is we're so new, the materials that were used is a C9, it's called SDR 35 pipe, it's a PVC pipe. In the way it's put together, it's a lot better than the older style of clay pipes and things like that, so it'll last longer. But yeah, it's typical, and it's the same thing in McKinleyville, and we don't have that yet in McKinleyville, but I'm sure at some point we'll be forced to do that, to where you'll have to have your sewer lateral inspected as part of your the purchase of the house when the house changes hands, and it is the homeowner's responsible from the house all the way to the main.
Yeah, and so for the general public, what's important to know is that the way that sewer laterals are typically inspected are via a sewer clean out at the house and or in the sidewalk. Well, a lot of homes don't have clean outs, and so therefore it becomes, even to have the sewer lateral inspected becomes costly, because a clean out has to be installed at the house, and that's typically about $1,000 is what most plumbers are charging right now.
Because McKinleyville is so new, and in our predecessors were so stringent on those things, there are clean outs. There's a clean out at the curb, and there's also a clean out at the house. That's a requirement to be able to get a sewer permit in McKinleyville. So I might have to say that 99% of all of the new, and about 99% of the construction, the previous construction that was done, the original construction, have clean outs. Now, some of them aren't brought to grade, so they'd have to dig down to but there are cleanouts.
Okay. Thank you for that.
We had an issue with that down on Hiller Wave Crest last year and a half ago or so, where it was lower, a little bit lower thing, but that was easily corrected.
One of the problems we're seeing in Rio Del, Arcata, and now Eureka is that they want this done at the time of sale. And often, probably not in this market, but often in the past, people, when they sold their houses all through the 90s, you know, they barely got out of the house and paid off their loans. So if they were burdened with another $7,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, they couldn't sell their house. And another problem with that is, if you looked at how long it's going to take for every house in Eureka to change hands, or Arcata, you're looking at like 100 years. And so by the time you're done upgrading all your sewer laterals, it's been a really long time. So one of the solutions City of Eureka is doing is, when they're relining their mains, they are also replacing the lower laterals and putting in the cleanouts in the sidewalk for the homeowners, whether the house is for sale or not, or just all the way down that section of street. And then the homeowner's required to put in a clean out at the house and reline their lateral down to the new clean out and sidewalk. So that way it actually gets done faster. And the problem is, in storms, the rainwater is getting into bad clay leach lines or laterals, and then it's flooding the sewer system when the storms are happening. And then I believe they're getting like fined by the state for excessive water in their sewer systems, and that's where they're trying to solve it.
Kevin, you bring up a good point, and I'm sure that that's something that we'll keep a close eye on, although I think we're in very good stead there. Just for everybody's information, we at MCSD have an excellent record on infiltration. We simply don't have infiltration because of how well our system is operated and designed, and our maintenance. So that's something we keep an eye on. But that last point that you brought up about as we go through it, if there's not clean outs and stuff, I'm sure that we'll address that at the district level.
Yeah, to clarify, part of the Uniform Plumbing Code has required those clean outs, Maya, and I'm thinking back into at least the mid-'80s, to use the SDR 35 pipe was pretty much under standard. Unfortunately, at most of the construction in McKinleyville, I'm sure there's some older houses in here and there, but almost the vast majority are all using the pipe. Actually has a neoprene seal in it that allows it to expand, so as you have activity, ground movement, etc., it just kind of trombones. So it's not, doesn't break up and crack up the way the concrete or the clay pipe you're going to see in Eureka and Arcata. So it's, fortunately for us, at least for, I would have to say, decades, probably a non-issue here in McKinleyville.
Well, that's great information, and I really appreciate better understanding that. I think it is also an interesting scenario in McKinleyville, as our unincorporated large area, that we have such a patchwork of public and private roads too. And so, we don't have a lot of sidewalks here, or places where, where ownership a lot of times goes to the center line of the road. So that's another interesting challenge, I would think.
Well, we have a lull. Shall we move on to C4? Or
Can I ask a question quickly?
Sure.
Okay. When you improve your highway crossings, is that something that can be done without stopping 101?
Thank you. We're gonna have to put in total separate crossings. We'll probably Jack and Boar under the highway. So yeah, we won't be disturbing anything on 101. So we'll put in the whole new crossing and then connect it into the system. So it'll be minimal impacts to anything.
Okay, thank you.
So if I heard correctly, with the new upgrades of the 3 crossings, you feel confident that that's going to be able to handle the town center development, which is still not done, but we all know there's going to be more housing and more businesses and stuff once the plan's completed. And you're right, it will probably take quite a few years for that all to occur. But you also mentioned SB 9, which basically has changed a lot of the permitting for second dwelling units and all kinds of things to become ministerial now, no longer discretionary, to where basically it's going to be allowed on most all of these residential parcels, but they're going to have to be able to put in a new lateral or something else to be able to have that second unit or multifamily unit, et cetera. And so is that going to create a capacity issue, or do you feel that you're going to be able to handle most of that? Because that's not going to all happen at once either, right? That's going to happen in bits and pieces as we go along, but certainly going to be some new growth with housing needs along that line. 8,000 more students and professors at Cal Poly, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, so, I think, yes, I think that will be spread out. When John Miller did the analysis, he was also assuming like all the lots that qualify for that will be built on. But we all know that a lot of the lots here, you're not gonna add a multifamily house in your backyard, or even a ADU, an assisted or accessory dwelling unit in the backyard, because they won't want one. So once we finish analyzing that data, we'll have a really good picture of it, and I think we'll have that done this year, and really can definitively answer that question, but I really don't think it's gonna be an issue.
Great, thank you very much.
One of the things to add to that is that in that analysis, our modeling, we looked at that huge number that the county was trying to stick us with, and that was in our brains as we did our calculations too, trying to get ahead of that.
Yeah, and those numbers for that 2011 or 2010, the update to their EIR is what caused what initiated the issue with the lawsuit, and it was all related to that year's general plan update. Well, since then, the Department of California Department of Housing, CDH is the one who assigns those RHNA numbers, those regional housing numbers allotments, and that's what RHNA stands for, Regional Housing Allotment, I believe. And they've gone down every year since then. So I think that things are a lot more, even though we have a great necessity for more housing in Humboldt County, and we've got a lot of issues that are caused because housing is so expensive here. I don't see it as being as draconian as the RHNA numbers were back then. They're more realistic now, and as I said, they've gone down every year since then.
Also, could you clarify if someone is adding an ADU, are they going to need a whole new lateral, or can they tap into the existing lateral with no problem?
Well, I don't know about with no problem. They can, on occasion, tap into, use the existing lateral, just connect the existing lateral that the house is connected to. Depending on the layout of the lot, et cetera, and where the ADU is, they might have to put in a new lateral.
One of the things you want to understand about that, though, is that is a financial impact on the district. The way it's set up is we don't get any normal
capacity fees.
Yeah.
We can't charge capacity fees on ADUs.
Yeah.
So basically, as ratepayers, we're going to be shouldering the responsibility
Exactly.
for those ADUs that are put in by by property owners. Now, SB 9 is different than that. SB 9 will be able to level capacity fees, and we'll be able to get our capacity fees that we need to tie them into the system for their share of the capacity, but the ADUs, we will not.
And I think one of the things, Greg, to leverage off what you said earlier, you know, there's theoretical housing capacities in our community, but, you know, with a lot of areas in McKinleyville, they're vacant lots, town center being, you know, a large portion of the town center area, they're wetlands. They're not going to be able to be built on. So you can't just simply look at it from the air and say, oh, there's vacant land with full houses. There's other uses and requirements on that. And now CAL FIRE has also come through and said, oh, we also are putting limits. So trying to get access roads into some of those parcels that are tucked back in. CAL FIRE is not going to allow houses to be built back in there. And that was came out last year, I believe it was. So, you know, there's a lot of other factors that are in this mix besides just simply looking at an aerial photograph of the McKinleyville community and seeing unbuilt on lots. A lot of those lots will remain unbuilt on for the foreseeable future.
It's been our long vision at the district to keep our focus on the larger potential, so that we planned ahead, and and thankfully, not for you, but the way the interest rates are, and you know, the funding and stuff now, the housing not selling quite like it was, so our growth is probably going to be diminished for 2 or 3 years here, but it's going to pick up, and we're going to have a lot of sales. We're going to have a lot of growth in McKinleyville, and we've got a long view on that, so we're keeping our eye on it.
Yeah, good. C3, any last? Okay, we'll move to C4. Discussion related to bringing a united McKinleyville voice to county issues. Oh, sorry. So we're going to move on to C4, which is a discussion related to bringing a united McKinleyville voice to county issues. Is that you, Pat, or is it just going to be everybody here?
I think it's all of us, okay. And it's an issue that has come up at MMAC meetings, where people have observed things going on in the county that we found out about after decisions had been made, without ever having it brought to our attention. That was part of the prompting of getting the reports from Public Works and Planning on a more regular basis once again, so that we know about things before they happen. I know that in one meeting we talked about how many of the municipalities were contacted while they were developing the climate action plan, but McKinleyville was not. Neither MCSD nor the MMAC was consulted for that. So that's just one example. So I guess it's more of a discussion of the reports is one way, but how can we make sure that McKinleyville gets alerted to things that will affect us? So anyone who has thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think that I think we should have to share in that. I think that it's incumbent upon us as citizens and also as active members, either elected or appointed officials, that we have to pay attention. And if you're not paying attention and reading the agenda, the Board of Supervisors agendas, you probably share in as much of not knowing what's going on as somebody not telling you. So it's very important for us as community members and then also as appointed and elected officials to read the county's, the Board of Supervisor agendas. I think that, I brought this up earlier, but I think that COVID really put a monkey wrench in the works and really kind of, because we were doing a really good job. We had a really good open dialogue going back and forth with the county for a while, and not being able to meet in person and things just in how bad things got there for a while with COVID, and that a lot of those balls got dropped. And so I think it's very important, and I'm glad that we're going to talk about this tonight, that we have to reinitiate that culture and make sure the county remembers, and that we're not on the back burner, that we're on the front burner, and that they think, oh, you know, this needs to go to the MMAC, or this needs to go to MCSD, to make sure that we're aware that not when it's getting ready to be approved by the Board of Supervisors, but when it's in the conceptual stages while it's still being planned.
Yep.
And I think that's very important. And we do have our 2x2s, our meetings. And I think that as the chair of the MMAC and the chair of the MCSD and the staff, that we remind the county every time we meet with them that we're here and we want to help and we want to participate, but we have to know what's going on. And maybe reinitiate that culture back to the county, that they say, oh, this needs to go to McKinleyville Community Services District. Oh, this needs to go to the MMAC, so that those things become second nature again.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, Bonnie, you're doing the 2x2s, I think, correct now. That's really important. And I want to give kudos to Director Bender. He puts a link on Facebook about every meeting, every Board of Supervisors meeting, many others. That's really important stuff. But that gets to what Director Orsini said, is that's at the end. Okay, by the time it's at the agenda for the Board of Supervisors, it's at the end. Okay, that's not where we get the work done. We have to be in the beginning, in the negotiations, in the process, and that's why the meetings that you have with the supervisor is really, really important, and that for all of us to keep up on the processes. It's one of the reasons that MCSD works so terribly hard being involved in state and federal legislation, developing of those legislations ahead of time. So I just point that out. Y'all on this committee, it's not just the committee meeting. You do have a responsibility, from my point of view, just me, to take it a step farther. Keep your eyes open, ask questions, but also be a squeaky wheel if you need to be. And that's how we stay ahead of the game. And we're not always, we're never going to be 100% successful, but we got to keep doing that. And again, kudos to Director Bender. That's an important thing that you're doing that we didn't have before you started taking the ball and running with that. But we got to be further ahead of that.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed as I've been on the MMAC now for several years, the MMAC doesn't have an office. We barely have an email. We just got a budget this last year. So
you're welcome.
Well, I got my pay doubled last year. I know that much. Didn't everyone else? I know that the district office, there's an office. You walk in the door, there's staff. The staff's driving through the community. I know a lot of the community goes to the district with issues that are frankly not part of the district's preview. And I, encourage the district staff to send that information, send those questions, direct those community members to the MMAC. It's always a little frustrating to have a meeting, particularly during COVID, even though, we get quite a few people coming across on Zoom, to hear from a community member, again, as you pointed out, Dennis, months after the discussion's already been going on, and we're at a, the road diet was kind of an eye-opener, I think, to a lot of the community. Here's stuff that's going on, and they're just now hearing about it. I'm like, okay, well, we've been talking about it for months now. You really need to participate in your community's governance, because that's a big part of it. So, and the thing is, being in an unincorporated area, we're lucky with the district in that, Pat gets up and he's thinking about the district when he gets up in the morning. You got to remember that county employees, county planning, building, et cetera, they're thinking about everything from Shelter Cove out to Willow Creek to everywhere. I mean, how large is our 5th district alone? So Supervisor Madrone has a lot of concerns on a daily basis besides just McKinleyville. So that's really where the MMAC, to kind of jump back up to C1, but that's really where the MAC is, that funnel for the community to get that information so we can get it disseminated out to the rest of the community. I go months sometimes without receiving an email communication until there's some controversy, then my inbox gets flooded. But I'd really like to encourage the community to participate. That's what the MMAC exists to do. Communicate, send those emails to us, send them to Bonnie. Have the district staff, if you guys, just because of your visibility, have a little bit of a target on your back when it comes to community concerns. But to go ahead and just deflect those back off to the MMAC, that's really what we exist to do. And I don't know that the community even understands sometimes that we even exist.
One of the things, how to make that mechanism work, it's kind of tough. Just an example, communications, they can hear me, I'm speaking up, don't worry. Facebook is an example. Scott will say something, and Director Orsini might say something, you might say something. I want to say something about it. It gets into a really tenuous Brown Act problem. So I have basically quit responding. And that's kind of one of the things that we had to learn being elected, is how the Brown Act diminishes one of the best things about getting things done is interacting with people. That personal visiting and stuff. That's really important way to get stuff done. So I just mentioned that it's working that mechanism out, Kevin. We need to hone on it, and I think at the district level we will discuss it more, but there are limitations for us that way.
Okay, Facebook is a very powerful tool. The demographic that Facebook is serving now is age 40 and above, primarily. Anyway, gosh, lost my line of thinking. Oh, I was just going to say that it's okay for us as board members to provide information, factual information, to inform the public of the goings-on, things that have happened, things that are planned. What we cannot do is offer our opinion about how we may act if something came before our board. And we can use Facebook all we want. We can visit with all we want. We just can't provide opinion or give any sort of inflection, including smileys, thumbs up, thumbs down, frowny faces, any of that. That's communication too, and that's covered. Oh yeah, the pile of poop is definitely out. But anyway, I just thought I'd make that clear.
So that's why I've quit responding.
Thank
And
you, Scott.
I'm learning the gift of judicial communication.
Thank you, Scott, for clarifying that we are okay with putting out factual information only and no pile of poop or any of the. We did. We got to find out for sure, right? Yeah. I wanted to segue onto something that Kevin brought up. You were saying that because we're not a city, we're not at the table all the time, and we are having to really be aware of what's happening at the county and to have advocacy happen, and hence the MMAC. One of the things that we found out at one of our last meetings, Director Mattson informed us that there is something called a TAC, the Transportation Advisory Committee, that's attended by municipalities as well as the county, and each municipality has a vote and the county has a vote. So that leaves out, once again, McKinleyville from a voice of what's happening transportation-wise. And I also wonder what else might be out there that we're not even aware of that we may want to think about how do we advocate for. And here we are, two bodies, and we're more powerful together when we can come together and advocate for our community. And so how do we, number one, find out what we don't know, and how then we can have a voice at, for example, the TAC, which is making decisions about roads, potentially money about roads throughout the county. And we are relegated to, here we are the third largest area in the county, and yet we have the county with one vote, and they're voting for the entire unincorporated area of the county. So those are the kind of things that I think about. It's like, how can we together figure out where we want to have a stronger voice and then use our voices collectively?
So, yeah, my understanding is neither the MMAC or the MCSD is represented on HCOG.
That's right. Just so you know, I go to a lot of TAC meetings. I'm sure Greg's been to TAC meetings. We've, for about 5 years in a row, we made a impassioned plea to be added to the TAC, to HCOG, and it's been shot down, but.
Yeah, we tried to get on the HCOG first and then settled for the TAC, just as a guest.
Well, I think that we should try again. I don't know how long ago it was that you tried, but I think it would be a worthy endeavor.
Well, it is.
You know, the biggest issue is that the cities all have representation on HCOG, and they in other COGs in the state, the counties have a more of a proportional representation. If they might have, their vote might be weighted 3 votes as opposed to a city that has, like right now on the COG, Trinidad and Blue Lake have way more pull than McKinleyville does. And you look at the number of people that we represent.
And the city of Arcata is absolutely against us.
When I was hired to be the general manager for MCSD, the board told me, we want you to expend all necessary effort to get us on the HCOG. Well, I banged my head against the wall for about a year until they finally voted on it, and it was unanimous against MCSD getting a seat on the COG because the cities do not want to relinquish that power.
Well, would it be an easier path for the county to have more seats on HCOG?
No, it's a hard. The county supported us. The county supported us 100%, and it's a process. It's not that easy. Yes, you're right. It would be better if they could, but it's a process, and there's so many votes. And
the only county, the only COG in the state that has special district representation is Orange County, and that was through CSDA's their affiliate chapter down there, and they actually were able to get a seat on a CSDA seat on, a special district seat on the COG in Orange County. But other than that, there's no representation in the state for special districts on the COGs.
And we could use all the support we can get if you all want to help keep pushing that. I'm something, like I said, I spent 5 years busting my butt trying to get us on it.
It might actually be time to
do it again,
to gin that back up in Pat's copious free time.
Just a question from ignorance then. Who is the governing body that regulates? Who is the governing body that regulates? Are they self-regulating COGS? They have nobody to report to themselves? They're a power under their own?
Yeah, it's a joint powers. It's a JPA, in each city, their board is compromised, or compromised, yeah, compromised. That was a Freudian slip, but their board is made up of a representative from each city council, and then one from the county. One of the board of supervisors.
I guess I'm just wondering if
who's our
there's
rep right now? Do you
there's
know?
a charter that they have to adhere to,
Yep.
or?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all JPAs, right now, Mike Wilson is the member on the HCOG, and traditionally, the chair of the Board of Supervisors sits on the HCOG. Mike was supposed to be chair last year, but because of his coastal commission duties, he asked Virginia Bass to be chair 2 years in a row. I'm currently the alternate on HCOG. I'll be the chair of the Board of Supervisors next year, and so I will be the member next year, and I would love to take your request to the table like Dennis and you have, and your board for years, to try and make that happen. It is a huge uphill battle. You know, ultimately what gives you control is being a city, but I don't want to go down that road here tonight.
Yeah.
But what I do want to say is that our Board of Supervisors, along with the $200,000 for the EIR for the town center, also approved $30,000 to be able to finally track how much money we're spending in the McKinleyville area using the CSD boundary. How much are we spending on sheriff? How much on planning and building? How much on public works? You know, because it's never been tracked. And so now we're going to set up a system where we can actually track that data. And we also have an agreement now with Cal Poly Humboldt, working with Kevin Jenkins, Lisa Dugan, and the new subcommittee at the MMAC that's going to be taking that study that was done on incorporation 20 years ago, last time it was looked at, and they're going to be updating that study. None of us are trying to push incorporation, but we're absolutely committed to getting the information necessary for the community, the CSD, and others to take a look at that and make some decisions around it. That's one of the big motivators why people incorporate, having that local control, having a seat on HCOG, things like that. But I will go to bat for you, you know, and work with you to try and see if we can make a change in the meantime.
Well, and thank you for that. It's a process and we keep working on it. But those meetings are open to the public. Right. You can go to a TAC meeting, and you know, and we do, and so, you know, yeah, yeah.
Well, I would like to encourage our joint leadership of the MCMAC MCSD Chair, Pat Kaspari, and Supervisor Madrone to work on some strategies so that we can be prepared when you are indeed the chair, to try again.
Well, and that's, and I would support that 100%, but it's also, you know, it's, sometimes things are what they are. So by being there, going to the meetings, you can, you know, you can have influence, okay? When Jill Geist was our supervisor, people didn't realize this, but she brought in $4 or $5 million in paving into McKinleyville that wouldn't have been brought in if she hadn't been there advocating for that at the TAC. So, you know, anyway, not to beat a dead horse.
So I guess back to look at the agenda item on C4, and I appreciate all of the discussion and conversation we've had. I guess as kind of a takeaway, I would like to see the channel of communication opened up between the MCSD and the MCMAC even broader than it currently is. Even, you know, like I said, I see one of the issues, and I've heard this from MCSD staff and directors, a lot of public concerns, a lot of public complaints, if you will, being funneled to the district that, again, are not part of the district's preview. You guys handle water, sewer, parks, lighting. And so some of these other concerns, I think the community ends up feeling not heard because they're really, I guess, talking to the wrong person, is the way of saying it. So what can we do to have the district staff feel comfortable in either directing, do they know where to direct the public, those community members, to voice those. How do we structure that so that it becomes a little more commonplace and not a once-a-year meeting like we're currently having? So where the staff that's getting these concerns from the public, from our community members, and educating, I guess, the community members where to go with that so that we can actually take it back to Supervisor Madrone, take it back to the county. So that's really what the MMAC exists to do.
Right, right. I would suggest that you assign at your committee level a member to come to each and every MCSD meeting. It doesn't have to be Bonnie always, it could, you know, or, but, you know, maybe a rotating thing. So you come, you bring those things, we can hear from us, bring them back. I think that would be a starting point, that would be a good starting point for transfer. I want to tell you what, we keep saying our staff, and our staff's pretty damn busy, okay? So we've got to be pretty judicious on adding extra workload to the staff. So that doesn't mean in any way not to transfer, but how to make it a smooth process.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm looking for, is giving the staff, the district staff, a resource where when somebody comes into the counter, comes into the office, you can say, you know, that's really not part of the district concern. That's not in our preview, but here,
yeah,
send your concern off, send an email off to this address, and they will respond. Or
Yeah, our support services do a great job, but one of the leaders of that is sitting right down the table from me that takes care of that, and they're great at not only giving phone numbers for the right person to talk to, but actually getting on the phone if they're having difficulties in making those calls, and actually making that connection with the people at the county or the people at the state or wherever it's at. So I think, you know, it is, you know, while I was a general manager sitting there and listening to what went on with the support services, it's a sizable portion of their daily duties of fielding calls. And I don't know how many times a day Joey probably takes a slip for somebody that's coming to pay their garbage through the window, and he has to tell them, no, that's down the street. So, you know, and that's just one thing.
And right,
Yeah, and
right.
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, and our staff is great, and I will echo what Greg just said, that they very much know who to call and tell them to call PG&E, call the Public Works, call Planning, call Supervisor Madrone. But we'll also...
Yes, that's what we do. Point it that way.
But I also will go back to the staff and reiterate that, hey, you know, if there is some general McKinleyville type question, and I guess I'm asking Bonnie, is that okay if we have them email you or give them your email address?
When we were reworking our rules, kind of discussed the whole MCMAC email, and there were some overloads of letters and stuff that current chair was having a hard, and when I was chair too, having a hard time keeping up with, and so then we switched to having everything go to the clerk of the board, and then they forward emails to us. Well, things have slowed down with the slowing down of the town center project right now, but it seems like, I mean, many of the MCSD staff now have my email, and if there's a way things could be referred to me, and then if it's something that all the MCMAC should know, then I have to send it to the clerk of the board. I can't just send group emails out to everyone because of the nature of our board. But anyway, I'd be fine with having either direct things to the clerk of the board and say it's a MCMAC item and then they'll send it to me, or have you guys forward it to me and then I can reach out rather than connecting us directly. if you understand that, just because, I mean, all of us, we've talked about getting dedicated MCMAC emails, but none of us have done it yet. And so, but I do check both the MCMAC and my personal email pretty regularly, and either way. So I would say you could have MCMAC or have the MCSD staff go directly to the MCMAC Gmail account without having to go to the clerk of the board. But we just didn't want the letter writing campaigns where people wanted their things to go to all the members to be coming to the MCMAC email.
Would that be a smoother way to go to your Gmail that way? And then you disperse it?
Usually they go to both accounts, and or often people copy both of those accounts on their emails. But anyway, I would say probably the most official way would be for you guys to send it to mckinleyvillemac@gmail.com, which is, if I send you something officially, it's often coming from that email. And then rather than to the Bonnie L. Oliver Architect at gmail.com address. And then
Yeah, and Bonnie, didn't we address that in our rules and regulations? And I think the most important distinction about whether an email should come to the MCMAC chair or Kathy Hayes is if it's a comment that somebody wants in the public record, then it should absolutely go to the clerk of the board, which is Kathy Hayes. But if it's a question or, some area of interest, then it should be fine.
No, that's a good clarification, and that.
Can I ask a question here? It's a little off, but we've got X amount of money allotted for MCMAC stuff. Is Kathy keeping track of MCMAC stuff? Is she on the bill for that? Is there a limit to what we can ask her to do? Or is she doing that, or is that part of the job county-wise that then isn't part of the money that we're delegated to?
So the Board of Supervisors have approved both a budget, and the CSD has also given us a budget, but then there's also staff allocation that occurs as a separate item. And so the time that Kathy Hayes or Brooke Epperly or others are involved doesn't come out of that budget part. That's staff support. There is a limit to it, just like there is in anything in government. But I think we have a pretty good system. And just for your information, Pat and I speak probably most every month about issues that might come to him. Somebody wants a light down by Bartow, and it's not in a lighting district. And Pat will say, here's the way that works, and here's Supervisor Marjone. He'll loop me into that, and we usually are working together to handle those things, and that's great. I also want to say there's nothing like participation. I appreciate that you're all at the TAC. At the TAC, it's Tom Mattson or one of the Public Works people that are at the TAC, not the board member. We only sit on the HCOG board, but the TAC is actually Tom Mattson, and it's more the technical folks in each city. It's not the mayors and the council persons, it's other people typically. But I have to say, our meeting last night went till 8 o'clock. Dennis Mayo was on Zoom last night at 8 o'clock with us right to the end. So it is that participation that matters.
That phone sits in my pocket, and I can do my chores while I'm talking to you, so I can multitask.
He was one of our last callers last night, so there's nothing like that direct participation. Thank you, Dennis.
Oh, and I wanted to clarify one more thing on that McKinleyville Mac email. If your computer, if you were sending things to Maya with that, then when you type in McKinleyville Mac, it might say Maya Conrad, McKinleyville Mac, but it'll still come to me. It's your computer that's generating that because it brings up from its memory what you did before, but it'll come to me. So don't be worried about that you're sending it to Maya if you're using the McKinleyville Mac.
I thought Kevin was sending something to Ben Shepherd the other day, and it was actually you, but because of that.
Yeah, so long as you have the actual email address right. The name that comes up is one of the former chairs or the current, yeah, depending on your email history, yeah.
Even though Ben's retired and not here anymore, you can still call Ben, and my God, he knows what happened yesterday and 15 years ago. It's like, I want to say one thing about our staff, and, you know, and I've mentioned about us all stepping up and doing, and we do, and you all do. We got a guy that works for us, Dave Baldessar. You know what? He knows your name and your phone number. I guarantee you, somebody in this, some customer walks in there, Dave knows, he don't even, he says, hey, how you doing? And he pulls you. So that's the kind of staff that we've got, and that's the kind, you know.
He's worked for the MSA.
Yeah, yeah. So I just, you know.
So Colin Fisk has had his hand up for quite a while as well.
Go ahead, Colin.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to respond briefly to the conversation about HCOG. Just to point out that, you know, HCOG's role is, it is the regional transportation planning agency, and primarily it's charged with, you know, promulgating policies, writing plans, and distributing funding for transportation infrastructure, and also for the transit system. And so I think, you know, one of the reasons that you'll likely have continued resistance to, you know, MCSD representation on HCOG is because MCSD doesn't have jurisdiction over any elements of the transportation system. So I think that'll continue to be an issue until that changes, either via incorporation or some other method. But I think it will be, there's certainly lots of opportunities for participation, but I think it would be sort of a difficult fit in the absence of having any jurisdiction over the transportation system. Thanks.
HCOG has more purview than that. Yeah. Housing.
I think, pull it real close. Is it close enough? That's better. I think the whole issue of this discussion, we kind of got bogged down a little bit with HCOG, but there are, Bonnie, you mentioned the climate issue, but there are several times where I will read something and it will list all the cities in Humboldt County and the meetings that they had in that city, that town. And of course, McKinleyville is not added. And someone over here said, we don't know what we don't know. And that's an issue. And I don't know, but I just feel like we get left out of things because we don't know that it's going on, because we're not a city, so we don't have a city say in it. But I don't know if I'm making sense, but they have meetings pertaining to different issues, and McKinleyville does not have a meeting because, I guess because we're not a city. But I think they could have a meeting in McKinleyville without us being a city, but we would need to know that this is going on so we could invite the people like that. What were we at last month, Dennis? Where they were doing the tables in here.
Well, there's economic development.
Yeah,
there's
the
REDEC, and we're
yeah.
involved in all of that. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, they came to McKinleyville. That's what I'm trying to say.
Which specific ones are you, that you
Well,
say that we didn't do? Because I don't see that. I see just the opposite
yeah,
of that. But
the only one I can think of now is the climate one, but I also wonder about the offshore wind things, if we will have any say in those issues.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, I think.
So then I guess we're not, people are involved, but I guess I'm not aware that they're involved or that they're having input, so that McKinleyville therefore is having input.
Right, Twyla, I think what I alluded to when I made my initial statement was that we have to reinitiate that culture back into the system that has gotten lost because of COVID and changing in electeds and changing in staff, that McKinleyville matters. And so I think it's a messaging thing, and I think that we all need to remind the people in those key positions that McKinleyville matters, and we want to know, we want to be at the table. You know, we want to be at the table. We don't want to be on the menu. And so I think it's just reinitiating that culture. I've said that several times, so I won't say it anymore, so that we're on the forefront of when a project starts, and it's going to be in the northern part of Humboldt County, or in this section north of the Mad River. Well, that's McKinleyville, the MMAC and MCSD's area. They need to be at the table. And the only way that that's going to happen, the only way that that's going to become second nature is through repetition, through us as appointed and elected officials, reminding our board, our 5th district supervisor, all the other supervisors, all the other board of supervisors, the county staff, our legislators, all those people that we come in contact with that are outside of our sphere here, that have potential to impact what goes on in our little world right here, that they understand that we want to be involved, and we just have to remind it, it's just by repetition that that's going to happen. And like I said, there's reasons why that kind of has fallen off. We've identified it here. I think we're pretty much all unanimous about the fact that we want to be involved in these things. We've identified some issues that have happened, plans and things that have happened in the last few years to where we weren't involved in it. And so it's incumbent upon us as individuals that have been selected by the community to represent them, that we instill that back in the people that are in power, that we want to be involved.
Right. It's just because you brought it up, I just want to give you an example of involvement. So I was a governor's appointee to the Ocean Protection Council. Okay, I'm not this current round, but I'm also have been for years. I'm a committee member, as is John Corbett, with the Marine Protection Act monitoring enterprise. Okay, you know, the marine protected areas, and now we have the monitoring enterprise. I helped write grant to get the underwater camera, you know, the MVRs, what's that, you know, the little units. And so right now there's the windmill deal going. There's a new National Academy Committee for Offshore Wind and Energy Fisheries Committee being developed. The California Commercial Beach Fishermen and the Crab Coalition and other fishermen are nominating me to be on that committee. So that's just one thing, and all the rest of us do stuff too. So that's how we stay engaged all the time. And like I said about these committees, when I talked to Jim Beitman about joining this district, I said, you can come and sit here and do X, and that's fine, but you can do X plus and exponentially do more. And that just depends on, you know, all of us, and that's what we have to do in the community, you know. I haven't been reporting most of that on the district level because, you know, we're so busy doing other stuff. You know, so hopefully the work you'll see the rewards of it in the policies that are developed and the influence you have on policy. So one of the things that just happened, Pat, you could expand on this a little bit. 222, State Bill 222, which was going to impact our district pretty severely, all of us, and we worked on that, and that passed the legislature and went to the governor, and we all wrote to the governor and implored him to veto it, and he did. So it's those kinds of things that we stay hooked up on, and anyway. The more you do, the more you can.
I like your idea of having one of our members attend each meeting as a member of the public, and maybe that would be a good one, you guys, for an agenda item to, we could get a volunteer every month to attend the next meeting, someone, or assign it on a rotating role or something like that. And then we should also all be, I mean, maybe we have somebody attend or at least watch Board of Supervisors meetings whenever there's anything involving McKinleyville or the county in general. I don't know. It's just, like Dennis said, if we all make an extra effort, we'll all be able to share the McKinleyville voice. And I like Greg's comments as well. And thank you for being so involved, Dennis.
I don't have a life. Both. But I am available if you've got a new truck.
Good one. You know, last night in our board meeting, one of the reasons we went late, one of the last items that Dennis was there to speak on was there was a proposal by our staff to reduce our planning commission down to 5 members rather than 7. 5 are appointed, 1 by each district supervisor, and 2 are at large. And we did the right thing, I think, last night, and Dennis spoke up to support that, and that was we stayed with 7. I've appointed a person who lives in McKinleyville. We also have an at-large person, Brian Mitchell, who lives in McKinleyville. And so what you did last month by inviting Natalie Arroyo to your meeting at the CSD was a really good thing, because we all need to be representing McKinleyville. All 5 of the Board of Supervisors represent McKinleyville. Yes, it's my primary job, along with the rest of the half of the county, like the 5th district, which is huge. But when you do that, when you know, I would say keep that going. Have Supervisor Bone come in, have Supervisor Wilson come, et cetera, and Bushnell, because all 5 of us have to be aware of what you're doing and to invite them. And you know, Natalie was at our meeting at MMAC this last month, but not as a supervisor that's coming on, as a person who's helping with the multimodal project. So I think that was a great move that you made at the CSD to do that. I think we could do that at the MMAC as well, and really just be speaking to all 5 of us and the 7 planning commissioners as well, because being unincorporated, we all need to be representing this area at some level, right? So I think that's a good thing.
It would seem then that perhaps we should also be attending the planning commission meetings. One of us.
You can watch them on TV.
Right.
You can watch the board meetings on TV, so you don't necessarily have to go.
Yeah,
And
I attend the
the
board of supervisor.
MCSD
Yeah.
meetings, how much public participation do you get?
Well, less than we have tonight.
When there's a
By about
bitch.
2.
Yeah, but we're talking about water and sewer. Nobody cares about water and sewer until the toilets don't flush.
Unless somebody's mad at us, we don't see many people.
Pat, maybe you guys should do, I don't know, a worse job. You'll get more public comment that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Now if we threaten to close the skate park down, we'll have the place full, and if we have an issue with the Little League, we'll have the place full. But other than that.
Or fencing the dog park.
Or fencing the
That-
dog
that
park.
filled the room.
That's actually, I had a friend that was on the school board, and yeah, unless something to do with youth athletics, it was a ghost town. So that's common, so don't feel too bad about it.
Well, one of the things that Supervisor Madrone just said about having Supervisor-elect Arroyo come, maybe something that the MCMAC could do as part of our annual agenda forecasting would be to try to allocate time for each of the supervisors for one meeting a year, just to have a connect. with them and let them know what we're up to and hear from them what some of the important issues and goings on are. I think, or maybe that could be part of our joint meeting, that we invite them at that time. I don't know, just fuel for thought.
Or maybe during the 2x2s every so often, Supervisor Madrone could bring one of the other supervisors with him too.
You have to tell Rex it's a fundraising auction to get him to show.
We have a committee that's part of our local real estate association, and we have a supervisor lunch once a year with each of the supervisors. And we buy them lunch, and we all meet with them, and they get to know what our real estate concerns are in the county, and we get to hear back on what's going on with housing from the supervisor standpoints as well. So.
Hopefully that lunch gets on their Form 700.
I just had my meeting with the Real Estate Association, and it's a great meeting once a year, and I always buy my own lunch. It's just a principle, you know, not just because it's a form, but I just, anyway.
It's easier.
So I appreciate the conversation, and what I'm hearing is that we need to get out in front, and we need to be visible, and we need to make ourselves known, and I agree with that. One of the things when Maya was suggesting that we invite the other supervisors to the MCMAC is why not Huffman and McGuire and Wood as well, so that they see what we're up to, and they can inform us, and that way they know that we exist. And because we seem to have a little bit of a problem with that.
Yeah, at MCSD, we go out of our way to, especially when someone's newly elected, we always, have a meeting with them. And then on a regular basis, one of the best ways to deal with your Huffman and McGuire and Wood is they're in the district a lot doing things. Go to those events. I live on a pretty tight budget now that I'm retired, and it's $100 every time I go see them, and I go. Just saying.
Well. Have anything further, or?
Well, I've heard the agenda item recommendations, and I think we could probably talk about it a little more about, is it part of future joint meetings, or do we make it a topical invitation or something like that? So something that we can discuss further as far as inviting people. So thank you. But I think we all need to talk about it a little more, but not tonight. All right.
Well, next meeting announcement, I don't know, is
Yeah.
that gonna be in a year? For a joint meeting?
Oh, well, I was going to announce the MCMAC meeting, or MMAC, depending on how you like to say it. But we usually meet on the fourth Wednesday, but because that's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we decided to move it to the fifth Wednesday, which is November 30. And so we'll be meeting November 30. And Pat, I wanted to verify, are we signed up to go back to Azalea Conference Room at the middle school?
We've submitted the reservation form. We haven't heard a definitive yes yet, but I think it's very likely that we will get approved, and we will.
Okay, so that will be verified when I send out the agenda. But we may be able to return to our roots at at the middle school for a smaller meeting space. And then Kevin has a meeting owl that we can use for meetings, so to keep the Zoom component. So. And yeah, we will have our next joint meeting next October.
And the next MCSD meeting is a week from tonight at 7 o'clock here.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. That was a good discussion. I
Yeah.
was, kind of apprehensive isn't the right word, but just kind of going, what the hell are we going to do? And it's been really
Yeah.
a good meeting. Thank you all.
And thank you to our guests, who I think mostly have left already, but we appreciate your presence here with us. And, yeah.
Okay, well, we're adjourned.